Okay, so Greg Gagne, forecaster for the Utah Avalanche Center in Salt Lake City, and myself, Paige Pagnucco, forecaster up in the Logan Zone and the Ogden Zone sometimes. We're having a quick chat today about the North American danger scale for avalanches. And we just kind of wanted to talk about moving between considerable danger and moderate danger in our current situation right now, because we're dealing with a persistent weak layer, and that kind of complicates the situation. It's not so easy to pick a danger rating when you're dealing with something that is a little bit less predictable than other situations, other types of avalanches. So that is what we are going to discuss for the next couple of minutes.
Sounds good. So Paige, on the UAC site, I'm actually going to share the North American Danger Scale.
Yeah.
So on the UAC site, so here's the North American Danger Scale.
Yep.
And we talk about, we have the 5 danger levels, but there's actually 3 different categories, right? There's travel advice, likelihood of avalanches, avalanche size, and distribution. And it seems like a lot of people focus on the danger level and its likelihood, but it's really those 3 components, right?
Yeah, it's everything. And I think people actually maybe focus on travel advice too, hopefully. But yeah, but likelihood, and I fall into that trap too sometimes.
Sure.
But the one thing that it doesn't take into account are the types of avalanches, just like I was saying, when you're dealing with persistent weak layers, it becomes kind of a different beast and less easy to move between these different categories because of its unpredictable nature. Whereas if you're dealing with maybe loose snow or storm stow instabilities or wet avalanches even, those things are pretty manageable, quote unquote manageable. And they become a little bit easier to delineate in those different categories. But yeah, it's simple. We try to simplify it down into one word, one danger rating, but it's actually a pretty complex puzzle that goes together to come up with that category.
So in most of the forecasting centers across the state of Utah, we've been stuck at considerable for some time because of this persistent weak layer. And would you agree that the likelihood of triggering avalanches over the last week or so has been decreasing, but that the size of these avalanches, that hasn't changed, right? There's still big, large avalanches. So we've been staying at this considerable rating because of travel advice and avalanche size and distribution. That has been dominating why we've been staying at considerable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was out yesterday walking along and just having collapse after collapse after collapse. And you're having these signs of unstable snowpack still that kind of, make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. You're grateful you're not on a steep slope. But at the same time, things are stabilizing a little bit. We're moving out of that solid considerable zone. As time goes on, things stabilize and heal. The worry is that they become harder to trigger, specifically the persistent weak layers, and people might trigger them when they get out onto the slab itself without any warning, without having any collapsing. And so, yeah, we've stayed at considerable for a reason because they're pretty dangerous avalanches, and they are slowly getting more stable. But even when we do move to moderate, we are going to definitely make sure that people don't take it that it's a green light conditions. Moderate is still dangerous avalanche conditions or heightened avalanche conditions. And we'll use the language in our forecasts to express like the unpredictability of persistent weak layers and sort of our confidence level in our forecast. So it's really important for people to read through the entire forecast and not just look at the bottom line.
And so we if we were to drop from considerable to moderate, for example, from one day to the next, it's not like overnight the avalanche danger has lessened substantially, dropped down in one level, right? It's more of just it's been that switch from considerable to moderate is really a reflection of our increasing confidence in avalanches becoming less likely to trigger, perhaps, but they're still large.
Yeah, sort of like lower probability, but higher risk type situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what about the opposite? So, because we're in a situation now where we've been at considerable for quite some time, we're talking about lowering it to moderate. But if we get some wind, if we get a quarter inch, a half an inch of water, not huge water amounts, do you feel we could quickly jump right back to considerable?
Possibly. I mean, I guess it depends on the evidence, right? If we start seeing avalanches and having an increase in signs of more collapsing, more cracking, definitely. I don't know what that threshold is this year. It's a really precarious year. It'd be great if we got 3 inches of water and we cleaned everything out. But when we get nickel and dimed with storms, that we're going to be sort of creeping up, maybe back to considerable, and then maybe we stabilize again and we come slowly back down. We're not going to have these big jumps in stability, like you said, overnight. They're small movements, and when we cross a threshold of confidence, then we can move ourselves down or up, according to what we're seeing.
Yeah. We call them persistent weak layers for a reason, huh?
Yeah, they're annoying and they persist. Colorado has been dealing with it. They've unfortunately had 4 fatalities, and just I think the first one was on the 18th and last one was on the 26th. That's too many. And they're dealing with the same issue. And we don't want to deal with that here. We're going to try our hardest to, keep getting the message out that this is the time of the season to just dial it back. And we don't know how long that's going to last, but we all want to enjoy the snow forever, for the rest of our lives. And so it's important to just keep that in mind when people go out, like, can always come back another day,
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. And good luck figuring out where we're going to go from here.